First, congratulations on all that's going on in GP3 right now. I don't know whether you're living in a wonderland or whether you're thinking, I knew this was going to happen.
Yeah, well, firstly, thank you very much. It's, like you say, going pretty much perfect at the moment. We've got 4 out of 6 feature race wins, another podium along the way, a few poles as well, so it's going very smoothly at the moment. I knew we'd probably be having a good season being in ART. Obviously, they've been the dominant force in GP3 for many seasons now, so I knew I'd be up there, but it's going well at the moment.
And I guess in many ways, it was all encapsulated at Monza last weekend when your teammate Jack Aitken got the jump on you at the restart, but then you were able to repass him and win.
No, I've rewatched that video a few times now. Obviously, it was quite an iconic image, really, when we on that virtual safety car restart with the 3 of us side by side going down into the first chicane. It's even though I lost out that time, but got it back later in the race, it was still puts a smile on my face seeing that.
Keeping the momentum up is never easy, particularly in a category as competitive as GP3. So what's it like behind the scenes between races at ART?
Yeah, sure. It's just like a snowball effect, really. Race by race, we've obviously got 4 quick drivers this year in the team. We're helping one another a lot. There's no secrets, so we're developing the car as well as pushing each other along. And it's just, like we say, developing the car, making that quicker, as well as making ourselves quicker. And the overall effect is the results we're getting.
You recently drove the 2017 Mercedes F1 car in the Hungary test and did exceptionally well. But what was it like getting back into the GP3 car for Spa?
Well, luckily I had a couple of weeks off before I jumped back in at Spa. When I first went down the straight up into Le Com, it was feeling a bit slow. And I had to double check on the radio if my sector 1 was all right, just to confirm I didn't have an engine issue or any kind of issue. The engineer said, no, sector 1's fine, so I knew that wasn't the problem. But no, Formula 1, and especially in the current era, is like a dream to drive. You're going so fast in the straights, through the corners, the car is so smooth. You kind of almost don't realise you're going as fast as you are when you drive one of those cars. It's like being in a luxury Mercedes driving down the motorway at 100 mile an hour, let's say, and you don't even know you're doing 100. Whereas if you're in an couple of years old car doing 100, you feel like you're doing 150 miles an hour. So it's kind of that sort of sensation between Formula 1 and the lower categories.
A nice analogy from you there, speaking as a Mercedes driver, of course. But on that note, what's it like for you when you're in the Formula 1 garage? Can you spend any time with Lewis, for example?
Yes, I kind of had a deal with Toto this year that every time I win, I'll come in the garage afterwards. So I've been in the garage 4 times this season now with 4 wins. Other than the Baku race, I did a bit of preparation before Budapest. But no, I don't often get to chat with Lewis like one-on-one, but I'm often there in the debriefs, in the morning meetings, listening into what the drivers have to say, their feedback, and just how they talk to the engineers, really. And that was vital that I had a few of these races before my test in Budapest, just to really see what these guys, or how these guys talk, the detail they go into. And obviously these cars are so complex, it's not as simple as a GP3 or a Formula 2 car, let's say. There's so much more you need to explain and be thorough about. So that was good to get their insight on that.
And what did you think of Lewis's Q3 lap at Monza?
Unbelievable. It's just, in those conditions, he seems on another planet, really. He's got such a good feeling with that car. Gives him such great confidence, and when everything's working well like that, he can perform an unbelievable lap. But it was mighty impressive that came in, he had 1 lap and he just blew everyone else away.
What stands out in your mind from that F1 test now that you've had a little time to digest?
That's a tricky one. No, probably the one bit which stands out in my mind is my first lap out of the pits on day 1. I accelerated off the pit limiter into turn 1. I wasn't going flat out at this point, as obviously it's my first time in the 2017 car. And I pressed on the brakes and my whole body just kind of threw myself forward. Even though I knew how much to expect, it still thoroughly shocked me that, God blimey, the brakes, the power on this car is just on another world compared to anything I've ever experienced. And that first lap, that out lap, took me by surprise with just how much G-force and downforce there is on these cars.
In terms of how hard you were using the brakes by the end of the test, what would you give yourself out of, say, 100?
Probably 95% really. Obviously, the job I was there to do was to be consistent, give good feedback, keep the car on the road, and pounding the laps really. I wasn't there to go out and set lap times. I didn't need to put the car right on the limit as if I would do in a qualifying lap. So even though I was really pushing to the limit, I still had a bit in reserve because, like I said, I was there to do a job, and the job was to complete the test.
What did you think of the halo when you ran it in Hungary?
When they initially announced the halo, I wasn't a massive fan at all, really. Obviously, the visual effects are pretty poor from the outside. But after driving with it in Budapest, my opinion has changed slightly, really. I was quite looking forward to driving with it, just to voice my opinion on it. Let's say my negative opinion on it. But after driving with it, the visibility from inside the cockpit was more than fine. I didn't really feel like it restricted my vision at all. So I've kind of looked at it in a different way now. I think it's going to be one of those things that after a year or two of people complaining and moaning about it, you'll just forget about it. And I think it's a similar situation to the T-wing on the engine covers at the moment. Remember, everybody at the start of the season were complaining about, what is this? It looks stupid, really ugly. I know Christian Horner voiced his opinion quite heavily over this. But now you don't even notice they're on the cars. You just kind of accept it and you move on. And I feel like that's going to be the halo. Obviously, it's not the final design of the halo yet. And I'm sure they'll try and make it look a bit more beautiful, let's say, and also safer. So I'm sure it's just going to have to be a period in Formula One where you have to accept it, move on, and you won't even know it's there in a few years' time.